Dear Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is our honor today to welcome His Excellency Abdulla bin Touq al-Marri, Minister of Economy and Tourism, and also Mr. Samaila Zubairu, the President and CEO of African Finance Corporation, for this inaugural event for a series of exclusive conversations dedicated to fostering deeper economic and investment partnership between UAE and the African continent. Now, I would like to invite the moderator, Mr. Sanjeev Gupta, a board member, an independent consultant, and a life member of the Capital Club. Thank you very much.
Given the level of impetus, the level of interest, the level of intensity with which UAE is engaging with Africa, as a person who has invested, worked, lived my life for the last 3.5 decades in Africa, I felt that the only and the biggest favor I can do to my adopted continent, Africa, is to help Africa to be understood better, for Africa to be demystified better, so that people will engage with comfort and with, hopefully, therefore, consistency. Right? And that is the whole purpose of this UAE-Africa Dialogue. And I think it would be a good time for me to ask the two speakers to join me here. Your Excellency, Mr. Minister, please. Mr. Zubairu. Please sit down. I'll join you just now. So, Mr. Minister, you will hopefully recall that quite a few years back on the Davos promenade,
yes,
snowy, hostile Davos promenade, for who've been to Davos, you know how hostile that whole terrain is. I suddenly got called by my name across the street, and I looked back and I saw His Excellency calling me. And the simple soul that I am, I was extremely honored that the minister remembered my name.
of course I do.
Except, he said, your hat gave you away. So, Mr. Minister, today is the day where I want to take my hat off to you. And to your government and to your leadership for picking up the need to engage with Africa, the opportunity that Africa provides. I again will repeat what I said earlier on, that a lot of the world's great powers, great minds, great intellectuals, great investors do not appreciate the significance and relevance of Africa as quickly and as much as the UAE government has. And you can see manifestations of that across board. Am I right so far? So, Mr. Minister, I'll put you on the spot. It's only good manners to start with you. And that is to say that in my limited experience in life, people either do things out of greed or need or guilt or love. Which one is it for UAE?
I think out of abundance.
Abundance.
Abundance. And I think it's important to bring abundance to the stage here and speak about abundance, given that we are living in scarcity. UAE, we are tribal, and a tribe man and a woman, when you come to them, they have a lot of abundance. They will kill a goat or a camel and serve you full day, 3 nights, out of hospitality. UAE has a lot to give where there's a lot of scarcity. We import 90% of our food. We desalinate the water to have water. But what we give to the world is freedom, is ease of ownership of their companies, their IPs, doing business, freedom of operating and managing your business. There's a lot of abundance that comes in from the UAE out. So I don't know how you're going to frame abundance in, but I think abundance is the heart of our founding leaders. visionary leaders and today's leaders, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan and his brothers Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum and his brothers Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and the brothers and the leaders of every emirate. If you reach them, there's a lot of abundance. Working in the government for the last 20 plus years, that's what we had as a core in what we do as policies, what we think. And today we want to take this abundance globally. How do we reach out? How do we connect South-South? How do we move above and beyond as well with the heart of abundance of giving? And as well, maturing in the way business is done, trade is done. And at the end of the day, we don't go into the deal without making profits, right? But that's bottom line. But I think the important aspect is UAE is always in the scene. And that's where we're always open. And this open economy that you see today, it comes from the heart of abundance here in the UAE.
Samaila, in the sort of 5.5, 6 years that you've spent in AFC, you joined AFC when AFC was roughly a 12 or a 13 member country operation. Today it's 45.
46.
46. It keeps going up by the minute, basically. It was a $3 or $4 billion operation. Now it's close to 15, Samaila?
16.8.
16.8, right? Profitability, I don't want to talk about. It keeps going up. I'm sorry that I don't work for him anymore, so I don't have a bonus to earn. But Samaila, in all this, having worked with you, and Mr. Minister, as you reminded me, I worked with him, so I know a little bit of his style. If there's one thing I've seen Samaila do very well, is how he has managed the African risk perception and managed to negotiate for the betterment of Africa with an assumed weak hand. An assumed weak hand. Samaila, how do you use that weak hand to make AFC so strong?
So there are no weak hands. There are only undeveloped hands. What we do really is to try to envision a future state of mutually beneficial outcomes and try to communicate that to the various parties and try to understand how we can turn the risk into opportunities. Also, not wishing for different cards. We're playing with the cards that we have been dealt with. And it's really just about trying to get people comfortable, knowing that you are their partner on the journey. So our real task, I tell everybody, is to build Africa. And that requires solving the big challenge of execution. The big challenge we have in Africa is we don't execute at scale. And we've been known to be a country or a continent of potential for centuries. And our job is to change that. Our job is to turn potential into prosperity with the demonstration effect of the successful projects that we execute. And we do that by de-risking, demystifying, ensuring that we can align capital behind ambition, and that we would demonstrate that progress can be made by action, not by talking. We are focused on outcomes. We are focused on results. The entire team is focused on outcomes, and they are focused on finding the way, finding the reason to build Africa, not being distracted by the various reasons why it has not happened before. All we have is here and now, and we use that to ensure that we de-risk, we provide guarantees, we make investors comfortable, and through that, we can build a future together.
Let me explain what Samaila do better than what he just said. I don't know if you guys understood. But Samaila takes a project, he will de-risk it. Government cannot mess with DFIs. You guys know what a DFI is, right? And you know what happens when there's a problem. So DFIs takes the risk away from you. And they take a risk, they actually co-invest.
Yeah.
So they'll tell you, here's a project, there's about 100 million, 200 million. Actually, we're going to put 50%. We don't need you guys to invest the full amount.
True.
And we will de-risk it for you, and here's why we're investing. So they co-invest with you. Now there's the African Finance Corporation, the AFC, but there are other 5 as well. So I cannot be with you, but there's other 5 or 6 of them in Africa, from the ADB and others as well, who actually does a lot. So I think for the people in the room today, where I see a lot of friends here, to explain how Africa operates and how DFI is very important for Africa in that dialogue. We're signing a lot of CPAs, right? Trade is going to happen. There's a lot of transactions going to happen. There's a lot of infrastructure is going to be built. Now, you guys, family businesses and family offices come from that kind of aspect as well on how to invest in Africa. How do you be part of the train that goes south-south? Right, now's the time. Now, if you don't jump on the road train and without the DFIs as your partners, you guys might miss the opportunity. Did I do a good job?
I mean, that is such a great point to allow me to ask a question I was going to ask you later, Samaila. That brilliant, what you said. That DFI like AFC de-risk projects, right?
And they invest.
And they invest with you.
They actually put their money first.
And that's where I want to ask you, Samaila. Can you share with the audience
examples?
This very lesser known fact, how you have mobilized African capital to work for Africa first. It's not understood.
Okay. So there are several examples, and I think I'll provide one with guarantees.
I'll put my money.
Yeah. So, so we arrange funds for banks, and we try to get other banks to work alongside us. So we provide guarantees to the banks to invest in Africa. And we do that all the time. We also invest alongside them so that they know that we have skin in the game. And we scale that all the time. So that's an example of how we crowd in capital, how we demonstrate partnership. And through that initiative, a number of those banks have applied for banking licenses, to operate in Africa. So from the guarantees that we've provided to make them comfortable, they are themselves applying for banking licenses to operate in Africa. That's an example. Another example, I think maybe the most topical one, is the Lobito Corridor, which is an 830-kilometer rail link between Chingola in northwest Zambia and Wakano in Angola. Most of Africa's infrastructure is not connected. So this will be the first time you have a connected infrastructure between the Atlantic and Indian Ocean. So we are the lead developers. So we put in the initial risk capital. We did a study recently that showed that Africa has $450 billion in pension savings, has $300 billion in insurance savings, has $150 billion in pension savings. So over $1.1 trillion in savings that can be mobilized for the continent. And what we're doing is to provide guarantees to those investors to work side alongside us. Now, we're doing this because we've seen how we can provide investment-grade guarantees to pension funds to invest locally. Pension funds don't like to take risk, and we can't blame them for that. So what we do is we assure them that they're going to get their money back, and they invest. And we can do this for all of you in the room if you're interested in investing in Africa. We just need to agree what you want to do, and we can be your partners. We work with banks from here, so we get a lot of support from banks here. We've done $1.5 billion syndications, $1.1 billion syndications. We've done the Murahaba syndication. We've done AED, Society Link. We've done several. And all of these are partnerships with banks that we work with. And the essence of that partnership is that we help them de-risk doing business in Africa.
Okay, hold that thought. Mr. Minister, I want to come to you.
Yeah.
It's not all hunky-dory. We know there are concerns with engaging in Africa, investing in Africa. How much from what you hear in your capacity as a minister from UAE-based businesses about security risks?
Well, there's a lot of investment in Africa we've seen in the last decades, from infrastructure, from ports. We've seen a lot of tourism and hospitality happening as well in areas. Has been, UAE-based firms who invested in Africa. I think UAE and Africa has a very strong mutual ground and trust. Now, Now we hear about a lot of risk, a lot of political risks, a lot of geopolitics, and there's so many things that might be. But I think everything is well de-risked, but institutionalized in a way that has been there for many, many decades. Now there has been a couple of cases here and there, but these are anomaly cases. There's a lot of opportunities in Africa. I've been in Angola with the president in August. I was fascinated with the infrastructure in Angola, and I think there's a huge opportunity to really happen in Angola. I think with the Zubairu corridor starts from Angola and to the other side, and there's a lot of opportunities that can be gone from there and work from there. There's a huge opportunities in DRC, for instance, specifically in tourism. We've seen the Rotana Hotel operating in the DRC, and they're operating another one. We've seen the opportunities of renewable energy happening. We've seen investment in hospitals as well in Angola and others as well. Has been de-risked and has been as well investments there. So there's a lot of that happening in Africa, but there's not a lot of media maybe behind it.
Correct.
But I think there's an opportunity in North Africa as well not to miss, from Morocco to Egypt to Tunisia and others as well, who has a lot of opportunities, and there's a lot of investments from the private sector here. Now, I know this because I land in these cities. I meet many of the investors there from the UAE. They tell me about their projects. I inaugurated a couple of them. And I think this is a great opportunity to really share these experiences as well. There's a lot of people in the room here who has a lot of experiences from Africa itself and their investments. Now, I think what's next is the bigger aspect is how do you mobilize DFIs, such as the Africa Finance Corporations, and to de-risk is a huge project. Now, DFI, the AFC does, and others, renewable energy, for instance, logistics, infrastructure, warehousing, for instance. There's a lot of opportunities. Now, with what we mentioned is the South-South corridor is important. And how do we connect Africa and then from Africa to South America? That's the connection of South-South, because we have the part from the UAE onwards, but we don't have the part from Africa to South America. And I think there's a huge opportunity potential from there is how do you connect Africa to South America? And thus there's a huge population, there's a huge demands, there's a huge opportunities, and that's where the UAE can play a role, and the UAE's investors here can really think about that kind of corridor movement.
And your role with BRICS obviously sort of underpins that.
Now, the UAE with BRICS is important because UAE has a diplomatic look at multilateral. We play a role into connecting the world abundance, right? And we are not just with the BRICS, we are with many organizations, multilateral organizations such as the G20 as well and others, and UAE plays a role in that as well. So we are engaging the world. We cannot demystify, we cannot not demystify, well, we'll use a better word, but, decouple the multilaterals. Multilaterals are very important for the world to come together and really design the new kind of, trade routes, the new trade bilaterals. And I think that's the connectivity that we need when it comes to multilateral. And the UAE work with BRICS and others is very important because that's a conversation that we need to have.
But, Samaila, Minister has been at pains to point out repeatedly the role of DFIs, multilaterals, etc., and we all get that. But, as a DFI focused in Africa, you can be only as effective as the environment allows you to. So what is the role you guys are playing to make government more business friendly, legislation to be more business friendly, and so on and so forth? I know you guys are doing a lot of work. You also said thinking of setting up a foundation, etc., etc. Can you just share that?
So, typically, I'll use an example of what we're doing. So we have an initiative we call Arise Integrated Industrial Platforms. So this was something that started in Gabon. It's now in 14 countries. And the whole idea is to create enclaves of certainty in a country, whereby all the rules and permits and approvals required to do business in that country can be obtained from that one office. And it has turned out to be hugely successful. So successful that we were able to get some of the lenders, our partners, other multilateral financial institutions that were lenders, to become equity investors alongside us. We've also been able to walk through a transition of the original partner we have exiting Africa and having management take over the business. With our continued support, we've also been able to attract third-party investors from the Gulf. We recently announced $700 million equity infrastructure transaction, one of the largest. That's an example of how we work with the government to create policies that de-risk operating environment and attracts capital, including third-party capital from outside the continent, to show validation of that. So that's Africa's first carbon neutral industrial park. That's Africa's massive cotton to textile park. Africa's massive edible oil production from sesame, cashew to edible oil. Africa's largest, livestock park, already engaging in trade between African countries and also to trade to the Gulf as well. So there are examples of how we do that. Another important example is through our thought leadership. We're able to make the case, for Africa's pragmatic path to net zero, to showcase Africa's abundant, resource, critical minerals that are essential to energy transition. We're able to highlight, I talked about Africa's domestic capital pools. I talked about Africa's carbon markets. So we do all of this to shape the narrative and spotlight government attention to the policies that are required to move from potential to reality. Yeah. So for example, on the pension reform, this huge sums of money hardly invest in infrastructure. Right. They're mainly invested in government bonds. So we're working with governments for asset allocation specifically to invest in private equity venture capital, infrastructure equity, infrastructure bonds, showing example of how a country like Nigeria had done this several years, and they've been able to mobilize even more savings, and they've been able to channel more domestic capital within the economy. Because businesses ultimately have to build by domestic capital. So, and not until domestic capital shows that they're working, foreign investors will not come. Correct. So the point Demi raised about co-investing is very important. That's why we do it. Because we know that nobody will come and invest in your country if they don't see the locals investing there. So these reforms that we've highlighted to the government are important to accelerate the scale of Africans taking ownership of development and funding the development.
Mr. Minister, this is all great stuff. Obviously, you've been very positive. You're obviously encouraging businesses from here to do more in Africa. You talked about abundance. Remember I said I'll come back to the point. But tell me, if there is one thing at least sub-Saharan Africa lacks, it's soft power. It's the ability to lobby at the right places. Can sub-Saharan Africa at least look up to UAE to be a partner in that space as well?
No, Africa is very powerful in soft power. And they are very heavy as well, multilateral, but I think one thing that the whole Africa continent maybe can look at the UAE's abundance. UAE is great in digital. In the digital age we're living today and the AI that we're moving forward to, there's a lot of lesson learned here. And I think the Africa continent can look at the UAE's digital infrastructure, how we do businesses. I think one important aspect is for Africa is renewable clean energy. There is a huge investments happening with Masdar in Africa. There's a huge investment by Amia Power, right, in Africa as well, which is a family-based company investing in solar energy in Africa. There's a lot of that is going to renewables. And I think the most important is industrial economies. There is, like said, we need to look at the kind of zones in Africa where UAE is great in. And we've done it here, like Kizad and Jafza and others, where there's a lot of these economic zones that help build the country. And I think this is something that we can share and replicate and bring that kind of thinking as well more and more, given the CEPA signings that's happening in Africa on a fast pace. I think this will be a great opportunities as well to share.
Clearly, sector-wise, a lot of what UAE wants to focus on, has focused on, has specialized on, are opportunities in Africa. You have done a lot of work with the UAE banking system. You've also got one partnership with Masdar. Why haven't you done more? Why is it that you don't have any more partners than just Masdar from the UAE? What's lacking? What can the minister do for you?
I think it's what we can do together. And I say that because there are so many opportunities. When I look at the Vision 2031, Vision 2050, on technology, on energy, I just see a lot of opportunities or intersections for partnerships with Africa. So we really just need to work together. So for example, if I look at the partnership agreements that have been signed, the bilateral investment agreement that have been signed, we just need to find 2-3 important initiatives that we can work on together. Is it food security? We can work on that together. Is it renewable energy? We can work on that together. Is it transformation of minerals and metals? We can work on that together. So you need a lot of bauxite transformation, steel transformation, copper transformation, to be able to deliver the technology of the future. You talked about AI and the massive digital economy that you're building. All of this requires, materials, and we have them in Africa. We have aspirations to transform them. So already we're building Africa's largest copper smelter in DRC. And we're using that, we're using renewable energy to do that. So it means that if you buy copper from there, it's going to be green copper. So you have enhanced carbon footprint, or net zero footprint with that kind of sourcing. And we have several opportunities to do that. So we're glad to work with the UAE. We're happy to be your execution partner.
I think the aspects of investing in Africa, when you look at the UAE, I think the fourth after US, China, and the Europeans in Africa. And I say this number because it's important, because people don't know how much UAE has invested in Africa. But
last year you were the largest, right?
Largest,
if you
actually.
include
Yes.
Egypt investment.
Egypt's investments and others. So when you look at the UAE today, accumulation of the last 10 years, we're about fourth in the ranking. So I think when the UAE goes out in investments, I think it's important to look at that the UAE is already in Africa. We're not knocking the door. We're already in. We're already there. And I think that's where the UAE stands. Given where the geopolitics are happening, where the tensions are done, UAE stands for itself. And it stands on grounds where it's already studied and de-risked, and investments that's happening from family offices or sovereign funds that's happening in Africa based on, at the end of the day, UAE will not go into a deal without there is a profit in it or there's an ROI into it.
Likewise.
And that's exactly, because we are in for profit. But we are in as well for good. We want to make sure that we develop, we create jobs, right? Any project that has been investment, there's jobs creation, there's, trade happening, there's a lot of, knowledge of wealth going in. So it's not just stopping at putting money in investment, but there's a lot of that given in.
Invest wherever you have a partner, because the opportunity is all over Africa. Just be sure that you have a good partner, and we are prepared to be your partner wherever you go. We've offered you the partnership. We're in constant conversations with your leadership. We have a couple of initiatives that we're working on together. We hope some of them will materialize soon. We're also looking at Dubai dry docks for several other opportunities that we have that come to us. So it's a two-way street. We are looking to you. You're also looking to us. So I'm sure that we can find an intersection to make it work.
Let me make it worse for you. DP World goes into Africa straight in, direct with the governments. But I think they need to look into DFIs. And how could DFIs de-risk a lot of these challenges that DP World is in? That's the kind of what you're trying to say, right? And I'm trying to, broker a deal here. No commission.
But Mr. Minister, Abu Dhabi port is listening.
Exactly.
And Abu Dhabi port is here. But yes, it's important with ports, they come in directly from top leadership, they go directly to countries, and there's what's happening. But I think the DFI can do a lot in the middleman to de-risk and co-invest with you guys into the ports that's happening, which there's a lot of ports in Africa that needs to be developed and invested in.
In fact, we actually have $2 billion to invest in ports.
$2 billion invested in ports just by AFC. And I think this is important because what we're trying to really raise to Abu Dhabi Port and DP World, that you guys can create do it straight in, but there's a lot of other opportunities can be done through the AFCs and other 5 other DFIs. I don't want to, I have to be a politician, but I think that's an important aspect where when you look at it is that you can look at these opportunities and these are good investments.
We are happy to have a conversation with family offices that want to do business in Africa. We will be their partner, and we can provide them risk mitigation guarantees as well.
How does family businesses open capital with DIFC and AGM? You need an office here, Samaila.
As soon as we have our ties sorted out.
Sorry, man.
We're in talks for a partnership. Once that is sorted out, we would have the office.
That's amazing because, and that person who's in the office has to have a membership in the Capital Club.
Given your support for DFIs, which is a logical point to make, is the UAE government going to consider investing directly in DFIs?
I think that's a question maybe should be answered by either Minister of Finance or Investments. But from a perspective I'm a big believer myself on DFIs. I know Samaila for many years. I know you, Sanjeev, as well. When you worked in the AFCs, I really believe in the vision of what DFI is doing. And this is something that I'm trying to educate and explain. How do DFIs work? Well, either I'm not working in DFIs, I have no any connection with any DFI, but I believe in the momentum of how DFI approach Africa, and this is something which is important. I've done the whole research on the DFI in Africa. I've done a whole research on the projects that they've been doing. I'm happy to share this research that I've done on the DFIs in Africa and how they operate. That's why am I sitting here and speaking about it, because I've done this many years ago. Importance of DFIs and how they work. And I'm very happy to share this across because DFI has a very, very good vision. They de-risk the challenges. They co-invest, like you said, demystify. And I think it's important. And like you said, important as Africa is looked at the lowest denominator, of risk in one country or two. But Africa has 54 countries. There are beautiful areas, great opportunities. And I think we should not stop here. We should really focus on really investing, looking at these opportunities and investing with the DFIs into Africa. Now, there are 6 or more DFIs in Africa.
Actually, there are more. I'm actually the chairman of the African Association of Multilateral Financial Institutions. And there's several. We have some focused on insurance. We have focused on trade. We have focused in infrastructure. So there's a whole bunch of partners that you can work with. And we're happy to share all that information.
And I think sharing this with the members today, we can share the documents that will help the members who came in today to really understand Africa and the DFI work. That's the kind of conversation I wanted to end with, is you need to look at Africa from a different lens. Do not go risking yourself. Do not go into, trying to explore yourself. There's a lot of investment opportunities laying on the desk with DFIs. They're waiting. They need partnerships, right? If I go to Samaila tomorrow in his DIFC office, future, and I sit with him, I say,
no pressure, Samaila.
Give me your projects in Africa. I have $100 million I'd like to invest in, right? $50 million I'd like to invest, right? And he will be able to share to me all these, investment
renewable energy, digital,
there you go,
copper transformation,
mining, ports.
Okay.
Industrial parks.
There you go.
Okay, so time to
Trade.
say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to Capital Club.
Thank you.
Thank you to CNBC. Thank you to Mr. Minister for his time and candor. And thank you, Mr. Zubairu, for telling us what can be done with DFIs. Thank you again, gentlemen.